back, they need a win. We'll talk about it Monday. Have a great weekend, and thank you so much for watching The Carton Show.
The rest of the wide receiver group is underwhelming. Kincaid's had some moments. They need a playmaker in the worst way this offseason. I know they keep trying to get it done or pick these guys off. Maybe Keon Coleman will be that guy. Maybe Josh Palmer will be that guy. It's not working. They haven't replaced Stephon Diggs, and it shows. And I think Josh Allen could use some help. So Buffalo Bills in the offseason, free agency, NFL draft, get yourself a big playmaker.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Let me ask you this. If they brought in Belichick, you don't think that... Yeah.
Oh, of North Carolina?
Yeah, they're playing much better now.
I wouldn't let him coach my kids. I don't even have any.
I tell you what, they would be more disciplined than what they are now offensively.
They'd be
lifeless.
Yes, they would. They'd be lifeless.
Yes, Brian Dable is a gutless head coach.
Came off a bye against
gutless head coach.
3 plays in, they gave him 150 yards.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Another sport like the NBA, which is dealing with its own, scandals, so to speak, and its own headlines with the FBI and what else comes, because this is the same FBI team that also brought the NBA scandals to light. So I'd have to imagine they're working on some other stuff as well right now, and the timing is definitely not a coincidence, but definitely some very significant news in the gambling world that now you're not going to be able to bet more than $200 on a specific pitch market.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Steph Curry's a sneaker free agent, plus how overtime took over your social feed. FOS Today starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado at FOS Studios here in New York City, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Changing the game has always been our game. You can access NASDAQ 100 companies in just one ETF. Invesco Distributors, Inc. Now, coming up on today's show, the media brand and sports league. Overtime, their CEO Dan Porter will join me to chat about what's coming next for the company. But let's start with the end of one of the most infamous sneaker partnerships ever in today's main event. In seismic sneaker news, Steph Curry and Under Armour announced they're going to end their 13-year relationship with Steph's Curry brand, moving on independently. ESPN's Shams Charania says that Under Armour will release its final Curry shoe in February, and Steph now will have the freedom to wear other brands and even pursue new partnerships as a sneaker free agent. So let's bring in Front Office Sports Editor-in-Chief Dan Roberts. So Dan, what led to this ending of this partnership?
Well, both sides, Baker, say that it was a mutual business decision, although we've already had analysts this morning speculating otherwise. A Morningstar analyst told FOS that if he had to guess, Curry kind of saw the writing on the wall. Yes, there were successes with this partnership over the course of 12 years, and it'll be closer to 13 years by the time it officially ends in October 2026. But Under Armour never really made a huge dent in performance basketball sneakers, which, by the way, is a very hard category to get right. And also, the company has been shedding a lot of expensive deals. We know that they exited 3 big college football sponsorship apparel deals early, and basically is in the course of a major, more than 5-year-long restructuring effort, right? So I think this was just one more expensive thing that Under Armour has decided it had to get rid of.
Well, let's stay with Under Armour here for a second, because obviously Steph was one of their most synonymous and most famous partners. Does this sort of hurt this brand as they're sort of trying to get more athletes to sign with them, or are they just in a different phase now that they don't need the athletes as much as they used to?
Well, I think there's kind of 2 answers. One is the reputation and sort of optics, right? And the optics are not great. They are losing arguably the biggest star in their firmament. But the other side of this, and I wrote a big story at Yahoo Finance years ago about this, and it's still true to this day, Under Armour at times has had a terrific athlete endorser roster. Curry, Cam Newton, Brady, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Michael Phelps, Lindsey Vonn, and it never really helped them. Jordan Spieth, by the way, was the biggest name in golf for a while when he was with Under Armour, and it didn't move the needle. And if you ask me, my analysis of Under Armour's struggles over the last 6 to 8 years is that it's a brand issue. You know, let's remember when it first burst onto the scene as a Nike challenger, Under Armour had an extremely strong brand, a real sense of itself. And that brand was, we're lifting, you know, wicking, we're wearing tight stuff, we're huge, football, we're in the locker room, will you protect this house? And I think to Kevin Plank's credit, that brand was so strongly established that it never really could escape that. And then the trends changed. The trends became running, athleisure, wearing streetwear. Adidas went retro, fashion. And Under Armour tried, and I just think that it was so locked into that brand, and that brand image became a lot less relevant to the consumer. So, you know, losing Curry hurts because he was the biggest face, but I'm not sure that he was helping them financially enough.
Well, outside of Jordan, it doesn't seem like a lot of athletes really move the needle on these brand partnership deals. Is this sort of becoming an old passe thing of the past with athletes signing these deals, even though they don't really move the needle as much as they used to?
Well, I think it depends who it is, right? Like Curry is now free to take his brand somewhere else. If he went to, say, a New Balance, which is making a lot of inroads in basketball, boy, I think that would be a boon to them. What if he went to a Chinese brand like Li Ning? I think that would really help them. I mean, arguably Steph Curry's brand is bigger than Under Armour's, right? But, you know, it's true that the idea of an athlete endorsement deal has changed completely. Now it's a lot less of, I appear in an ad and you give me money. And it's a lot more of, I have equity in the company. I expect to be involved in design. I expect you to name me president of basketball ops or ambassador. I expect to maybe be a board member or be a board advisor. So all of the way they do these deals has really evolved over the years.
You mentioned, obviously, Curry could go to a place like New Balance. What's the market look like for somebody like him?
Well, I think your first guess, if you think he's going to go to a big new brand, because by the way, he could just stay independent, might be Nike or Jordan brand. I've heard that that's unlikely. Of course, who knows? It's worth mentioning, by the way, he's free to announce a new deal as soon as literally today. His Under Armour deal doesn't officially end until October 2026, but he can certainly announce his next home immediately. The market is open, but he's probably expensive. As I said, New Balance has done a lot with basketball, but let's remember, basketball performance sneakers don't really sell that well. So if you're going to sign an NBA star, it's got to involve a lot off the court, not just a signature sneaker.
Yeah, very good point. Dan Roberts, editor-in-chief here at Front Office Sports, thank you so much. The NWSL semifinals are this weekend with an epic matchup between the 2023 champions Gotham FC and the 2024 champions Orlando Pride. And joining us now to preview that big game is Orlando Pride defender Zara Chavoshi. Zara, good to have you here. Thank you so very much for joining us. Obviously a huge matchup for you guys. How do you think you stack up against Gotham FC here?
I'm so excited. It's going to be a great game. I think they've got a lot of talent. We've got a lot of talent. We've got a lot of firepower because there's just a lot of stuff in the media right now, and we want to prove everyone wrong. Obviously, we want to double down. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think both teams are amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, you guys were the defending champions, but you also have a history of attracting a lot of really big-name players to your team. I mean, Alex Morgan's played for you. Marta's currently with you. Ali Krieger's been on this team. What do you think is it about this club that attracts such big players?
I mean, Orlando Pride has always been an underdog team. This is our 10th year in the league, and we might not have had the best track record, but I think we're a very resilient team, and I think something that speaks for itself is the fact that Marta's been here since 2017. For me, if you have the greatest player of all time at a club for that long, it means that she's invested in this club and she trusts this club. So I think that's what brings a lot of people in.
I mean, yeah, if you have a player like Marta on your team, everything changes. I mean, obviously, this is your rookie season. You know, what has it been like with people like Marta and so many other teammates helping you with that transition from going to college and that transition to being in the NWSL?
Yeah, some of the experienced players on this team are incredible. They inspire me every day. They make me want to be better every single day. They're also amazing people off the field, so you have a lot of respect for them. You want to compete with them. You want to work for them and to help their legacy when they're done playing the sport.
What I think is also so interesting is the fact that NWSL got rid of the draft. I'm curious your thoughts on that, and what does it take now for players to sort of break into the system now? Do you sort of think players now, the challenges that they have to go through to sort of break into the league now is different now without a draft?
There's always going to be challenges, I think, with or without a draft. I think that representation is so important. having someone that's going to advocate for you without a draft. You can't just put your name in there and hope for the best. This time you need someone communicating with coaches and clubs and advocating for you. I really was grateful for my agent throughout this process because I had no clue what I was doing. Obviously, you have a lot more autonomy, which is amazing. But if you don't know what to do with that, then you can be really stuck. So I think representation is extremely important.
Well, do you think there are pathways for a lot of players out there who are wanting to be a part of NWSL that they can join, maybe if they don't even have an agent? Like, do you see that there are pathways for players to get into the league?
It's going to get better every single year. I know last year there wasn't a combine. This year they're working for a combine, which I think is going to be really impactful for a lot of players. It's just going to give them an opportunity to be seen.
Okay, and let's talk about the next phase of NWSL, because look, this league is growing so fast. The valuations of these teams are getting higher. Players are getting paid more. Media rights deals, you're on more television platforms and streamers than ever. Are you excited about the next phase and growth of this league?
Yes, I am so excited. And recently this week, we just announced another club's coming in Atlanta in 2028, I believe.
Yep.
And I know the owners of this club also just provided seed funding for the NWSL Foundation, which is finally going to invest in research for female athletes, specifically their health and well-being. And I think this is a giant step because female athletes suffer from certain injuries more so than men. And a lot of the research right now is just for male athletes. And I think this is just a really big turning point, and I'm extremely excited about it. I think a lot of people should be excited about it too.
Well, I know we're very excited for the semifinal matchup this Sunday between Gotham FC and Orlando Pride. Best of luck this weekend, Zara. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have more Front Office Sports Today headed your way right after this quick break.
Notre Dame playing very well, in a position to crack the top 12. Now they have to take care of business.
Here's what I want from my, and again, we're going to go over who we think is actually going to make the playoffs here a little bit later in the show. But understand this, Joe. I don't want any ACC in there. I don't want any Big 12 in there. Just give me the Big 10 and the SEC. And Mike, quite frankly, if you just gave me Ohio State, Indiana, and the rest of the SEC, boom, boom.
Nah.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
It is a sickness in this league. They stink, and they should stink next year. That's it.
But the expectation is to be a 9-8 football team.
So let's shake it. Why is that the expectation? They're garbage. And traded away two of the few good guys they have.
But they're going to get how many draft picks in the first round? 3 next year?
Two.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Brissett has been that good. So this is a quarterback that I think is worth acquiring, but especially in Superflex leagues. If somebody's already got QBs passed by and Brissett's just collecting dust on somebody's bench, go out there, get him, because I think the next 4 weeks, some of the matchups too, he gets Jacksonville, he gets San Francisco, he gets Tampa. Those are going to be some higher scoring games potentially. Good news for fantasy managers who are trying to get Jacoby Brissett.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Today's prop was 15, right? And he's at 44. If you altered him to 20 or 25 plus, those are some big numbers. Like 15 and a half, like Jack Besh this morning was 11 and a half, and his number got bet up to 15 and a half. Tyler Lockett was 16 and a half and bet down to 15 and a half. If you just took a shot, like 15 to 25 is nothing. And next week, his number's not going to be 15.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado in New York. And since its founding back in 2016, Overtime has continued to be one of the hottest sports platforms out there. And joining us now is the founder and CEO of Overtime, Dan Porter. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, almost 10 years you guys have really been a platform and have really been percolating so many people's feeds for years. How have you sort of seen the company really evolve since you started this back in 2016?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been almost 10 years. I was like a teenager when it started.
Yes.
But it's really aged me incredibly.
Yes. Your hair color was way different back then.
I mean, it's so interesting. Like when we started, professional sports teams were terrible at social media. Now there's a lot of good professional sports teams that are really good at social media. When we started, everyone was like, it's all about having your own OTT. Now, everyone's given up their own OTT to be on other people's streaming accounts. And when we started, it was like the future of sports is on the phone. And now for our live events and our leagues and our games, over half the people are watching on connected television device. So those are like, you might not be aware of all those changes, but really consumption, a lot of the things that people thought were going to happen have turned out really differently.
So how did you know back then that this was where things were moving? And do you almost think that you now are the model for leagues like the NBA and others in terms of mimicking what you guys have done when it comes to especially their social channels? Because you think of the NBA, it's one of the most social friendly leagues out there, but they weren't always that way.
Right. I think I'm not arrogant enough to say that we're the model for anything, but I think clearly we have over 100 million followers and we've been really successful, and every league and company looks at other people who are successful and figures out what they can learn from them, and I look at them and figure out what I can learn from them as well. But I would say in 2013 to 2016, I built the digital business for WME for Endeavor. So I represented, the first 250 big YouTubers in the world and so forth. And you just think about who's watching that, who is the audience. I could go pick up my kids at middle school and they were like, so-and-so, so-and-so. And it was so clear that attention had shifted from all the places where attention was when we grew up to there. And yet I also ended up working with a lot of leagues and teams, and they were like, our product is amazing, except the next generation isn't paying attention. And I'm like, well, if they're paying attention to this, but they're not paying attention to that, how do we find something in the middle? And so in a way, even though platforms change and strategies change, at the core, deciding to create a sports media product for a very specific Gen Z, millennial, now Gen Alpha group that talks in a certain way, consumes media in a certain way, that was really just kind of the insight and the belief that if they weren't participating in the same sports ecosystem I grew up in, that we could find a way to talk to them in their voice.
For every sports media platform like you or Barstool or somebody else, there's a million others that have tried to work and they haven't. What were sort of the challenges that you guys had sort of overcome to get to where you're at now that a lot of other startups maybe got stuck in and never really recovered?
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody at our level, at our scale. So we're like clearly much bigger, and I don't want to say we have no competition, but there's, again, nobody close to us. So why us? I'd say number one, just probably ambition, experience. I mean, we went out, we told a big story, and we went for it at a really big way. We have over 20 accounts with 1 million followers each. I think strategy-wise, we built a network of accounts. We talked about young people in a really different way. We clearly basically played our own game, so to speak. And I'd say number three, every time there was a change, we got to 3 or 4 years of being this really big media company, and we're like, we don't own anything. So we started to get into owning and starting sports leagues and live events. And we built a very vertically integrated entity. I think a lot of people start a sports media company and they're good at something and they just stay in their lane. And we just kept growing and expanding with a lot of ambition. And then we had a lot of good partnerships. 6% of active NBA players are investors in Overtime. We have big investors and partners at a lot of different levels. And so we knew, like, our goal was to try to build the biggest sports media company in the world, not just to operate a little niche. And then I'd say the last thing is global. Like, we were really, really global. Over people from 70 countries watch the finals of our basketball league.
You mentioned the leagues. I mean, obviously you have so many different verticals of where you're at now, but I really think if it weren't for the Thompson twins or you have Alex Sarr or these big names in the NBA that were part of Overtime Elite, do you almost think that the league, you needed those guys to make it into the NBA to prove that you guys in Overtime Elite were a legit organization? Like, you needed those success stories.
I needed those guys to succeed for grown-ups to feel that.
But not your normal audience. Interesting.
No, our audience believes that, like, when they're watching Amanda Nassar play for the City Reapers at OTE, like, that's amazing. They don't need them to be successful somewhere else to validate what they do. It's like, if I'm a teenager, I don't need somebody who's 25 to wear something that I'm wearing to make me feel that it's valid, like what's valid for them. Grown-ups are different. Grown-ups are like, oh, are you real? Who are your advertisers, investors, and are your athletes successful? So as a business person, you have to play both games. But I think our core insight was that I think we tend to treat young people based on their future value. So you're in high school and people are like, oh, where are you going to college? And then you go to college and they're like, oh, what's your major? What are you going to do with that major? What job are you going to get? You're in high school. What are you ranked? Oh, where's the mock draft put you? Where are you committing? And I think our insight was like, young people are amazing for who they are in that moment. We don't have to project to them into the future. And I think that really resonated with our audience.
On top of that, I mean, you have sort of this new environment in the college sports landscape with NIL. Do you almost feel like now that gives you and OTE an advantage, because now you can say to somebody like Alex Sarr or somebody else, come make your money in OTE before you go to pro, or you can go to another school, but you guys are sort of allowing people to make money off of NIL that they wouldn't have at a university per se.
Yeah, I mean, NIL, they have a lot of those opportunities at universities.
But different.
NIL is a huge accelerant for our business, clearly. It allows us to work with any athlete in the world. It allows us to have a formal, approved transactional relationship. And I'd say number 3 is NIL stands for name, image, likeness. If they don't know your name, they don't recognize your image, they're not paying you for your likeness. So we have many, many players who are making millions of dollars in college right now. And part of that is the benefit that they get from playing on our platform. And for me, while I'm in the business of obviously creating media and getting a big audience, the idea that young people could come in, use our platform to empower them and their families to do life-changing things and to make money and stuff like that, that's pretty cool.
We're going to take a quick break for my conversation with CEO Dan Porter. We have more of it coming up. Don't go anywhere.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72-0.
Keep that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Now, in football, changing the game begins with rethinking it, like rethinking how players work on their game. And with wearable tech, advanced analytics, AI, and more, the same innovative thinking that changes the game could also change your portfolio. Invesco QQQ gives you the access to innovators who are rethinking the world, so let's rethink possibility. Let's get back into part 2 of my conversation with Overtime CEO Dan Porter. Take a look. So what's going to be the future for you guys? What are sort of the next sort of verticals and evolution of what overtime is going to look like over the next few years?
I think for us, there's so much room still in football and basketball. I mean, those are the biggest sports in the country. Those are the sports that are most located in culture. And I don't think we've done everything in men's and women's basketball and in football that there is to do yet. And I think if you look at college sports over the last 10 years, not just NIL, but the repositioning of all the conferences. I mean, college sports is a massive percentage of sports rights and media business now. And I think you're going to have that on the high school level too. I think your high school and my high school are going to be exactly the same as they always were, but you're going to have 10, 20, 30 national high school programs that are creating a high level of competition. And where we are positioned right now to continue to build on that.
Well, let's go into that a little bit more, because I feel like for high school athletes now, building a brand in this NIL environment is paramount now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how that's important and how that sort of helps with you guys as well, sort of highlighting that as well.
Yeah, I mean,
and to facilitate
you want to
that
build
as
a
well.
brand not just to be seen, but because the whole point of NIL is it's mostly people are paying you marketing dollars and not paying you to pay. And if you don't have influence and followers, then you can't command that. And then, by the way, it's the same thing as the NBA. Most of the biggest players in the NBA make more money from endorsements than they do from their salary because they're highly recognized. And so for us to work with players who are 16, 17, 18 years old, who are really good, and we can media train them, but then they get on our platform, which means we're talking about them on our channels, we're putting them on our own podcast, and then all of a sudden they leave with 500,000, 1 million followers. It not only accelerates their ability to benefit from that, but they own their own distribution for the rest of their life. Like, that part never goes away.
Could you guys become an agency down the road? Like, I don't see why, like, if you have the connections to the athletes, you're giving them this platform, why not represent these athletes and take a financial cut out of it?
We could. I think some of it is just, I like being in the position where we do what we do with the athletes, but they can also work with people outside of our business. And I just think in some ways it's almost healthier if we're not. Like, I don't want to blur any lines, and I don't know, it's the same reason I have no problem with sports betting. We just don't have sports betting on our leagues. I think we're creators of media and we have a massive young audience, but we're also stewards of our audience and of the young athletes, and I think we try to be ultra responsible.
Who are some of the creators on Overtime right now that are really hitting right now that you're really impressed by right now?
So Diamant Blasi, or Diamond Blasi, he's a French player. We met him in a gym in Paris. He has over 10 million followers, and his dream is to go to the NBA, but he's also super popular. Taylon Kinney, or TK, is the creator of the 6'7" meme. He's going to play at Kansas.
Oh my God, wait, that's where this all came from?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting, okay.
Yeah. He's going to play at Kansas next year, but he has almost 1 million followers and just hit a game-winning shot in our league. And then we have a whole new crop of young players who are able to take advantage of the platform. Travis Hunter's brother plays in our football league, and so it's really cool because clearly there are a lot of creators, right? When I worked in that business, I represented people who did gaming, people who did food, people who did beauty, but athletes were kind of like, well, they were too busy throwing the ball or dribbling the ball, but they have as much influence as any of these other creators, but they need our partnership because they can't film because they're actually running up and down the court. So.
Right, really fascinating. And it's crazy because that 6'7" meme has been everywhere. So now to think that was the genesis, the platform, the genesis of where this all came from is wild. Wild.
Should I be proud of that?
Yes, you should. Okay. You absolutely should. And yes, you got street cred. That's why. Dan, such a pleasure to have you. Congratulations on all the success for Overtime, and we can't wait to continue to see all the good things you guys are going to be doing down the road as well. Big thanks to Overtime CEO Dan Porter for joining us. And before we go, let's tell you a little bit about what we're watching this weekend. Very busy sports lineup. On Friday, NBA Cup action continues with the Warriors and the Spurs. Steph Curry back in this one. Of course, he had 47 in his return against the Spurs just 2 nights ago. That game at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Prime Video. Meanwhile, Saturday, a slew of great college football games, but the big one, number 10 Texas at number 5 Georgia. That game, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. And then a bunch of big NFL games on Sunday, but of course the biggest one, you have Sunday Night Football, Lions at Eagles. That game, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time on NBC and Peacock. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Front Office Sports Today. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next week.